Good afternoon. And by the time I upload this video, it will be morning. Good morning. Well, my friend, June is upon us, June 1st, and happy month of June to you and to yours. Well, again, I'm exhausted. I've been restructuring my whole room. Um, it may be evident by the fact that there's no bookcase here anymore. It's somewhere else in the room right over there. Um, but that's part of the reason why I'm tired today due to that restructure. Hello, my love. Hello. I think Boba has decided that she's a movie star and she wants to be in everything we film, it seems. Well, we'll see if she can deal with the smoke today or not. At any rate, the subject of today's video is Orthodox Church, fourth impressions. Now, what has become clear to me is that I have some theological and philosophical topics to address. And um, I'm not in a moment where I want to do that right now. Um, but today, as we approached the end and drew near to communion, the concept of communion itself, um, and what it means and what it is, um, it was it was too much, and I actually left. Um, so this doesn't mean that I'm no longer in a pursuit for truth. It doesn't mean that I'm no longer in a pursuit for meaning. It doesn't mean that I'm never going to revisit a Orthodox church, and it doesn't mean that I won't visit another church. And in fact, that's probably what I'm planning to do. Um, I knew when I began visiting the Orthodox Church that the Orthodox Church is a place where they will require you to affirm um, I can't think of the word right now, but doctrinal, specific doctrinal elements such as the Trinity, the resurrection, the virgin birth, and to participate in communion. And I was open minded about, sitting in services and taking some time to learn and to observe the culture and what have you. But what I actually was not expecting when I began these visits to the Orthodox Church was the degree to which the service, the divine liturgy, I'm not sure exactly what the Orthodox call it, but what they do on Sunday. I was not expecting it to be really 90%, maybe even more, affirmation of those four things. Um, that is a key difference between what I recall experiencing at Protestant churches when I was young and um, the Orthodox churches as I experienced it on the past four visits. And I just want to say again, beautiful people, wonderful community, good, humble people. I enjoy the serenity. I enjoy the severity. I enjoy the community they have. I really enjoyed everything about it. Um, but because I have these, you can call them metaphysical qualms, these philosophical stumbling blocks with the divine liturgy, and because the space is not really conducive to uh, sorting them out, I don't see that being the place where I'm going to find a resolution to these quandaries that I have, um and that's okay. You know, the Orthodox Church has an identity, and that's a good thing. And the Orthodox Church has a tradition, and that's also a good thing. And my purpose of going was to learn and to seek and to observe. And I now have a much better understanding of what the Orthodox Church is than I did before I went. Um, and I think that this is really the paradox that I'm encountering right now. The paradox is I want a group of people to commune with who have a specific culture, a specific tradition, and one which is not too tainted by modernity. And I believed intuitively, or perhaps knew, even beyond intuitively, based on my research, that the Orthodox Church would be the strongest representation of that. Well, now having gone and seen it firsthand, I know that it's true, and I admire the Orthodox Church and its community for that. Um, but I am not somebody who will look past something that I have a problem with. When I think that something is incorrect, I'm not capable at some level of simply dismissing it or ignoring it. Not even for pragmatic utility, not even for my own benefit. And until I sort out this stumbling block with the resurrection, the Trinity, the virgin birth, and now what has become apparent to me, communion, these are all major stumbling blocks, and some would say really the core expression of Christian faith, which that in and of itself is becoming a thing that I'm more acutely aware of now than perhaps I was before. And perhaps there is no Christian faith in which I could go to avoid those, and perhaps there is, but my concern would be that it would be the Protestant sects, which I've sort of deemed as ineffective for dealing with the cultural problems, which is my original reason for going in the first place. I'm left in a bit of a pickle now, where when I look at the field of options, I anticipate that the Catholic Church will likely be the same, and I'm going. My next visit will be to a Catholic church, um, and I will do somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks. I'm going to give it another. I'm also going to give the Catholic Church, some time before I make any assessment. Um, I gave the Orthodox Church a full month. Did some research on my in my spare time, in addition to just simply attending and listening. but the methodology of the worship is difficult for somebody who doesn't believe those four crucial tenets to the Orthodox faith. Needless to say, this leaves me in a difficult situation where I reject the modern culture that we have, but I also reject crucial pillars of many of the ancient faiths. And I know I'm not alone in this. I know there are a lot of young men out there who are in the same position, um, who look at these structures or systems and would like to participate in them, but feel they are effectively ideologically homeless, which is a video I made recently. Um, well, anyway, I've known from the beginning that I don't know what to do about it. That's part of the reason why I'm going to the places that seem to have um, at least models which work better. And I still believe that and see the Orthodox Church that way, which is that they have a model that works better than what our modern culture is able to provide or produce. So, if you're watching this, you're feeling disappointed, don't take this as any kind of indictment or don't read too much into it. These are the personal stumbling blocks of one man who's really not very important in the grand scheme of things. My personal views and my personal opinions on things don't really tip the scales in any significant way. So I'm just a guy who talks at a microphone and looks at a camera for 50 to 300 people at this time is about my range. So sometimes 20, occasionally 10. So at any rate, um, I was disappointed to experience what I experienced today, not on behalf of anyone else, but just simply at the position that it leaves me in. Mainly is I don't know what to do. I look at all of the landscape of the world, and I just don't know how to solve these problems that we have. So, yeah, as I've mentioned earlier, I'm very, very tired. I moved my entire room around. That's the reason why I haven't posted in several days. And the reason I did that was because, and this is probably embarrassing to admit, but I'm a pretty transparent person. If you look behind me on the wall right there, that's the circuit breaker to the house, one of three. It's a really old house. And the bookcases were blocking it, which was a very stupid thing to do. So I resolved that issue. And it wasn't like anything happened. There was no emergency in which I had to access it. Graciously, I was able to realize that and change it without the need for any kind of catastrophe to occur. Um, all it took was a little elbow grease. So here we are. Now we're in a better position. And that's one of the things that I believe. And so I guess one thing that I'll talk about before I go today is, some people may ask, where should rationalism end? Where should the desire to know something end and the uh, promise or products of pragmatic utility begin? Where's the balance in those things? When should you move past your desire for knowledge and move into, the view of an engineer who is willing to let go and enter, um, take a greater leap in what I would say. So another way to phrase this is, um, what quality of outcome would justify an unjustifiable belief? And I use the same word in a different way there. So I use justify in the terms of like validate or make right the decision to, and then in the second case, unjustifiable belief would be a belief which has no methodology of validation possible, which goes against axiomatic precepts, which just doesn't make sense, rationally speaking, from any sort of angle of falsifiability or verifiability, at least in the material, empirical, rational sense. At which point do you say, I want the outcome so bad that I'm going to choose to believe those things which I cannot make sense of? And I don't know where that line is. I know that I don't believe in lying. I know that I'm not a dishonest person. And so I believe that my answer in short is something like, you will know you have chosen that when you start walking towards it. When you don't even see how the road will get you there, and it goes against everything that you thought you knew about the terrain, but you begin walking in pure faith towards that destination. And you will know if it was the right or the wrong decision by whether or not you get there. It's something like that. In my life, I tend towards justifiable faith. You know, the smaller the faith leap, the more work that I can do to shrink the size of the gap in the faith leap, the better. The better I feel about making the leap. And in general, that pays off because most of the time I make relatively good decisions and I move my life um, slowly in the right direction, away from the life that I used to have towards the life that I want to have. Building a more desirable future and therefore a better today, step by step. It's an iterated process. And I do have reasons for wanting to avoid affirmation of things like the Trinity, many of which have become apparent to me in the past 4 weeks during my visits to the Orthodox Church as well. Um, the elimination of time in a cosmic sense is a big problem for me. And that's a whole conversation that could be gotten into at some point. I'm not going to get into it today, partially because I'm too fatigued to do it justice, and partially because I just simply don't want to. Not right now. I seem to remember that I might have gotten into it in some way in a previous video, although I don't remember which one. At any rate, next week will likely be Catholic Church first impressions. We'll see how it goes. I'm already aware of issues that I'm going to have there. The infallibility of the Pope is a big one. Um, I don't believe that any person ever could be infallible under any circumstances. So that would introduce a new stumbling block. And I'm open minded to the idea that the Catholic Church will be better. And I'm open minded to the idea that the Catholic Church could be even worse. And I don't mean better or worse in terms of like it's a better place or a worse place. I mean, in terms of the way that I understand the world to be a better fit. And I understand that that's not exactly the mind of a student or a child which is ready to be taught, but I promise there are parts of me that are. And I will go in um, with a relatively blank slate, although I do think that having gone to the Orthodox Church will have prepared me in some ways that I wasn't before I went there because I had never been to um, Orthodox nor Catholic Church a service from one of those two denominations prior. Prior to that, I had only ever been to a Protestant church. So we look to the future with open eyes, my friend. Open eyes. I believe that the search for the good, the search for the true, the search for the divine, the desire to be worthy of the graces of God, these are fundamentally necessary things for man to do. Um, you have to do those things. If you don't do those things, you are not going to like the life that you get. And so I will continue to do those things. And again, this is not a judgment or an indictment of the Orthodox Church. Wonderful, beautiful people, including those who have joined me in my comment sections. But I have to look at the entire landscape. And so while I may come back to the Orthodox Church, I will be taking a momentary reprieve and exploring the landscape. As I said prior, I've been away from Christianity and from all organized religion for approximately 20 years. And so I want to do a proper reassessment of the um, theological landscape and see who is out there and what is out there and what are people doing. And so with that, my friends, if you've enjoyed the video and you want to join me on my search for truth and for wisdom and for insights and revelation and um, support me in my desire to humbly seek the true nature of divinity itself and try to understand the way that this world works and our place in it, and also our mutual journey towards um, personal betterment and cultural healing. That is fundamentally what this channel is about. I called it Dan versus Everything mostly because it was a name that my ex fiance came up with, but also because it was quite appropriate to what I'm planning to do with this channel. And the function of the channel is anytime I want to do or try anything, I will do it. And therefore, I needed a channel name which encompassed that freedom. Dan versus Everything was the perfect name. Kudos to my ex fiance for that. She's a brilliant woman. And so I may do perfume reviews. I may do philosophy, theology, um, psychology, history. Who knows what? I'm even considering stand-up comedy. I really want to leave this thing wide open for basically anything that I choose to do. So if you want to see what's next, it's probably in about 7 days. It's probably going to be the Catholic Church. So with that, peace and blessings to you, my friend. Please like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy this video. Leave your comments once again, encouragements, recommendations, whatever you have in mind. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much. For now, ta-ta. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.